Welcome to the Oak and Onion Board Game Podcast, where we discuss the modern board gaming hobby and other things we're currently nerding out about. I'm Chris,
And I'm Joel.
and we are here to remind you that whether across the country or across the table, the best things in life are enjoyed with friends. On today's episode, we'll put the new Stonemaier expansions on the chopping block for review, and we'll talk about current and upcoming crowdfunding highlights as we start thinking about what draws us to games and what turns us away. But first, let's talk about what we've been up to. So, Joel, what's been going on in your world?
Not a whole lot, Chris. Actually, that's not true. A lot has been going on in my corner of the world. I just got back from a work trip to a teacher convention. And it was a really good professional development trip and things like that. Like, I actually had a very fun time, got to, spend good time with colleagues, learned a lot of things about being a better teacher. But I have to say, it does not measure up to board game conventions. Like, if I had to weigh the two, I think I'm going to choose the board game convention every time. Now, that may sound obvious, but I just want to put that out there that I do have that gamer instinct and gamer credit, and the reason I feel like I need to foreground that is because I realized I made a huge error on our last podcast, in that every single time I referred to the artist of Root, I called him Kyle Ferris.
Oh, no.
And his name is, of course, Kyle Farron. So, my wife took my gamer card. She punched a little hole in it to say I'm got a warning here and things. But yeah, that was my huge embarrassment. Good trip, bad realization as I was listening to the podcast. So
That's funny. I have one too, if you'll let me interrupt you.
yeah, please.
During the blind ranking, you gave me Kiesling and Kramer, and I thought that they had co-designed the first Azul together, and I looked, and that was incorrect. That was just a Michael Kiesling design. So hey, there's one punch for both of us from episode one. We're doing great.
Believe me, I knew that, but I wasn't going to punch your gamer card. One has to punch their own gamer card. That's
I could have sworn that they designed the first one together. I knew they didn't design them all, but I was very wrong. So there you go. Both of us messed up royally on that first episode.
That's the kind of professionalism you can expect on this podcast.
You're here.
So, what's been going on with you?
Well, quite a lot as well. First off, I've been sick this week, so if I don't sound super great or I don't get all my coughs out of the episode, I apologize. But such is life. Caitlin and I we've been married for 16 years now, and we're still finding ways to experience firsts in our relationship. And this week, that first was buying a brand new mattress for the first time as adults.
Hey,
and
it's a real milestone.
Yeah, I mean, you want to feel like a real adult, go out and shop for a mattress. You're gonna crap your pants because they're stupid expensive. But we have spent our whole marriage with hand-me-downs, mattress wise, and we're at that point now. We're not getting any younger, our bodies are not getting any younger, and I have been sleeping like garbage lately. And I said, hey, let's put some of that tax money towards shopping for a new mattress, and it'll be here this weekend, and we're way too excited about it. So
what kind did you get?
It's a brand that nobody outside of Oklahoma is gonna know, because there's a furniture company based out of Oklahoma City, and they have a warehouse where they make stuff. And I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they said it was their brand, where they kind of take some of the bests of all of the brands and put it into one mattress. And so we're really excited about it, and I'm hoping it ups my sleeping habits and my energy level, because that's been severely lacking lately.
Yeah, absolutely. I speaking of sleeping, I also have not been sleeping super well. So I went on this work trip, as I mentioned, and that was Sunday to Wednesday, yesterday, as we're recording this now. And my wife also had a business trip or a work trip, starting on the previous Wednesday, and so we were apart for 8 days. And I don't know if you in 16 years of marriage have experienced this, but we have occasionally taken trips away from each other and things like that. And there's a part of me that always enjoys it, right? That little bit of like bachelor life, like I'm just going to do whatever I want in the house, right? And just hang out. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I can, do whatever I want. It's great. But I do not sleep well when I am away from her. And so whether it's at the hotel or even in our bed, I'm just like, oh, I'm sleep deprived now because of that time apart from each other. So
Sure.
that was a real challenge. It was fun for the first day or two. Then I'm like, man, we have the cat, and so it's just me and the cat hanging out. And I realize it's really good that we're married, because if we weren't, I would just sort of be a hermit in my house all the time. I would just be like, come in, turn out the lights, hang out in the dark, watch dumb movies,
As
uh,
you do.
nothing productive happens when I'm on my own. So
Sure.
I'm glad we're both back together now. But yeah, that
That's
was
good.
that was an interesting couple of days for sure.
Yeah, Caitlin has that issue. I sleep okay alone. That's not a huge issue for me, but if I'm not home, she's like, she cannot go to sleep. And it's sad. I hate that for her. But she also had a funny experience this week, speaking of Caitlin, that I wanted to share because I know you, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners, the few of you that are out in the wild, will appreciate this. So one of our kids wanted to go to the library and meet a new friend from school. This was just a couple days ago, so it was this week, and so that meant meeting the kid's mom. And in talking to this mom, Caitlin discovered that the husband plays games to some degree, and the way the wife explained it was like he has all these little plastic pieces that he just sits and paints for hours, and then they get together, and they all went over to somebody's house and they were going to play games one day. She's not super into them, but um, the way she described it was they played this one game and it lasted over 3 hours, and they just kept getting up and getting snacks and sitting back down, and it just never ended. And Caitlin and I were just like, yep, that's the way it goes. But it's always so funny hearing the perception of what we do as gamers from somebody that's not a gamer, right? And
Absolutely.
they think it's just this weird, crazy thing that to us is just normal. Okay, it's like, yeah, we do the same thing. So we might try to get together with him and play some games with him, and maybe see if we can introduce her into some light, fun games and not a 3 hour game that she's not interested in. So we'll see how that goes. I'll check back in on that.
I get it though. I don't know how to explain still board gaming to like my students and things like that. I
Right.
know they think I'm a big nerd. I mean, that's goes without saying, right? But when I tell them that like board gaming is my hobby, of course their first, impression is like, oh, like you sit around playing Monopoly and Uno, and it's hard to explain, like it's related to that, but it's nothing like that
Right.
in a way that makes sense to someone who hasn't actually like one played a game like that, and two gotten a little bit bitten by the board game bug, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I get it. I don't know, if I were trying to explain to an outsider how many hours I spend playing games and doing game related things, the reaction tends to be either why or like let's change the subject because I don't know how to talk
Sure.
about
Yeah.
this. So,
Well, and then you go deeper and trying to explain to your family that you spend a whole week going to a board game convention. Like, what do you do?
exactly.
And one of my best friends is like, so did y'all go explore the city? Did you try any cool restaurants? It's like, no, man, we played games. Like, that's why we're there. That's the purpose of the convention.
Yes,
So it's just funny. People just don't get it. But we have to help them understand. That's part
that's
of our
right.
job as gamers, right?
Yeah.
So
You played a lot of games recently, right? Is that you
I
were at a
I
convention?
no, so that's coming up this
Oh, that's
coming
coming
weekend.
up. Oh,
Next
gotcha.
weekend. Yeah, the weekend after this is releases. No, I just tend to play a lot of games, period. Um,
That is true.
this
I've
is
been
what I
watching
do.
your posts of like what we've been playing, and it's like we is one game I played and like 12 games you played. So
Well, to be fair, it wasn't 12, but to be fair, you did send me more than one game, but said, hey, you can't post this picture yet because you needed to post about it first. So
yeah,
to your credit, you played more than one game. Yeah,
and
so.
And
Go
I
ahead.
did play a lot online also, to be clear.
Yes.
Like, I don't take pictures of my screen during BGA and stuff, but I did play other stuff there, including some of the ones that you played. We played some of them together.
Yeah, so one of the things Joel and I do, and some other buddies as well, Ken, shout out to you, is we play a lot on Board Game Arena. And Joel and I, with Ken as well, have played a few new games recently. We played Seven Wonders Dice, which I've been playing quite a bit of that on Board Game Arena lately, and I'm really enjoying it. And I really want to try the physical copy,
Mm,
because that's going to determine if it's one that I would like to have in our collection or not. How
yeah.
the shaky box works with the dice rolls.
I I really like that game in theory. I It's one of those games where I'm like, "I'm gonna learn this, I'm gonna take a quick glance at the how to play and then kinda click around," and I thought I understood it, and then clearly I didn't
Yeah,
because our scores were so far apart that I'm like, "I am missing a key concept here in this game," but I see why it has
yeah,
great potential. There's just something that's not clicking with me yet.
yeah. But also by that point, I had played 8 or 9 games of it before your first one, so it wasn't my first game. But
Yeah.
we also tried a new game to Board Game Arena, formerly called Streetcar. It's quite a bit older, and they've kind of rebranded as Line One. Really interesting route building game where you have to build your streetcar path from one hub to the other, and it has to pass specific stops along the way. And you have to complete your route before you can move your tram. And whoever gets their streetcar from one end of their path to the other first wins the game. But just because you finish your path first doesn't mean you built the most efficient path. And so I feel like there are probably moments where you could finish first, but somebody still could beat you. But it was just really interesting. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's the best route building game, but I'd happily play it again.
Yeah, I liked it also. I've actually played that, the physical copy of it, several years ago, and I did enjoy that. In fact, I enjoyed that more than our online play because
Mm.
having played it several years ago, I was like, "I think I remember how this plays." Once again, I did not remember how it played. I was like, "Oh, wait, I have to connect particular stations, not just start in a station and end in a station." So, again, really bad performance by me. But yeah, my reaction is generally the same. It's not one we kept in our collection because I'm like, I like it, but there's other games that I would play before this, and
Right.
it's not a bad game, but it just didn't do anything to kind of spark my excitement.
Yeah. I'd happily play it some more on Board Game Arena.
Yeah.
I do think they changed the way the trains move in the new
Mm,
version. I
okay.
believe I could be wrong, but reading the original rulebook and then reading how the dice rolls worked on the board game arena implementation,
Is
it
it the
did
dice
seem,
that are
yeah, it did seem different.
okay? Yeah, I
So
didn't remember dice rolls, but I didn't remember the game well enough to be sure that I was remembering anything correctly,
yeah,
as became evident as we played. So
yeah, I thought it was neat
yeah,
though.
yeah,
And then I said, "Hey Joel, you want to try Tacta?" And he learned it, and we played it. We've played we played a 2 player game, a 3 player game, and now we're in a 5 player game with some other
yeah.
people as well.
6.
And Tactus is super simple, fun little card laying. Can be kind of mean.
I have grown to like it quite a bit, and not just because I got better at it, but partly because I got better at it, because I realized, when you're playing those cards down, you have to position to defend as much as you can, right? How
Right?
can I
Yeah.
place this card so that fewer people can steal points off it and cover up some of my point pieces? And I didn't really get that at first,
Yeah.
and kind of came to understand that a little bit better the more we've played it. And I do think it's a pretty neat game, very very clever and kind of different than other stuff we've played. I wonder how it plays on the table, because there are times on the digital version where I'm like, I think I can fit a
Yeah.
card there, and then it'll be like, oh, this fraction of an edge covers another card, and so it doesn't. But on a table where you're not as like
Rigid.
exact in those
Yeah.
placements, I wonder if that changes the feel of the game at all.
I think it probably does a little bit. I've played it once in person when I learned it
Okay.
last summer. And number one, depending on player count, it gets huge real fast. Um, we played it at 3 and it sprawled pretty quickly, but it wasn't overwhelming. I have seen people complain about that with the board game arena implementation online, and just saying that it seems too harsh, because apparently in the rule book there's like a white outline just a hair into the card, and according to the rules, from what people were saying, as long as you're not overlapping that, it's okay. So I think there are probably times where the board game arena implementation is really harsh about that rule. And if you're playing on the table, you can maybe fudge it a little bit. Now, that's not in the spirit of the game, and you shouldn't
Right.
do that. But that's really up to the individual and their conscience and the group as a whole to decide what gets to fly and what doesn't. But I do. Some people did say that they didn't like the implementation for that reason because it was too harsh on some of those card placements.
Yeah, I could just see it being a slightly different experience when there's, as you said, a little bit more room to kind of mess with it a little bit or
Yeah.
fudge it, you know. Yeah.
Yep.
But it's a good game. I liked it. And I think easy one to if I had a physical copy, an easy one to introduce to family and friends maybe who aren't big gamers and be like, "Hey, let's
Yeah.
just play this. We're just putting
'Cause
down
there's
cards."
no rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then we had Nehemiah wanted to have a couple friends over Saturday this past weekend, and that meant the dad drove them from Oklahoma City, so they had like an hour and 15-minute drive to get here. So he's going to hang out for the day, and he's not someone we know super well. And so, what do you do when you don't know if you click with somebody? You put games on the table, right? And
Right.
so we decided to put the Jabba's Palace Star Wars Love Letter on the table. Our youngest picked it out. And as we were playing it, Nehemiah's friend and Nehemiah came in, and his friend immediately was like, "Oh, I want to play this." And so he sits down. We were in the middle of it and almost done, but then we got out the Marvel version, Infinity Gauntlet, and we played like 3 games of that back to back to back, and they had a blast with that game.
Nice.
And I don't know if you've played any of those love letter implementations, but
I've just played the original. That's not true. I've played Lovecraft Letter. Is that what it's
yeah,
called? I think that's what
yeah, I
it's
think
called.
that was. But they do change up some of the way the game actually works because for years it was just we're going to put a new theme and artwork, but it was still
Right.
just love letter.
Yeah.
These two kind of spawned a few new games that took love letter and rethemed it and actually made some mechanics with it to fit the theme. So the Marvel one, you have one player that's Thanos, and everybody else are the Avengers. And
Mm,
the Avengers are playing together, and there's no rounds. You just keep going until the game ends, and there are times where decks get reshuffled. But Thanos' goal is to either fully defeat the Avengers or collect all the Infinity Stones on the table in front of them. Right.
gotcha.
And so, as the Avengers, you're trying to defeat Thanos before that happens. And so, it still feels like Love Letter, but it also feels like they did a good job taking a theme and making the game fit. And
Yeah.
so, we played a few games of that, played a couple games of Flip 7 because that's when the kids always love. And it's
Yeah.
super easy and fun. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and buy a copy of it because they had a blast with it. And those 3 games, I have said for years, games like that, the enjoyment level is so dependent on the group you play with. And
Yeah.
Flip 7 especially, because the first time we played Flip 7, I didn't have the greatest time because nobody was getting into it. Somebody at the table was getting really mad that they kept having really bad luck. And it just wasn't a super fun, engaging experience. But then there are some groups that they're ragging on each other, they're laughing, we're egging each other on, and it makes the game so much more fun. That's what that game needs to be enjoyable. And
Yeah.
all 3 of those games with that group around the table were an absolute blast. And so they were really fun.
Can I tell you a quick story about Flip 7? I'll keep
The
this very
greatest
brief,
card
but
game of all time? Absolutely.
yeah, listen, the first time, I think it was the first time, maybe the second time I played it, it was my buddy Dylan, his dad had passed away, and we'd gone up to Michigan to kind of be with him for a funeral, for the funeral and things. And it was Dylan's kind of whole family, his extended family, because, his mom had already passed and his dad passed away. And we were kind of sitting there, and, nobody was like sitting around just like sobbing or anything like that, but it's a funeral. We were pretty somber and things after we'd come back from the service and stuff. And or maybe it was before the service, I can't even remember at this point. But he busted out Flip 7, and we just spent so much time playing that. His sisters-in-law got involved, right? I mean, there was just a big group around the table. People would swap in and out kind of playing the game, and it was just such a like fun kind of positive bonding experience, right? It's just one of those things that games really do, is they bring everybody together. And
Absolutely.
even in that like really sad circumstances, it was great to have that like release of just such a fun, silly, light, enjoyable game. So I don't know, it's a great game. It's got a place in my heart for that, just those that memory of like this was a little light in the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super cool. I love
Yeah.
hearing stories like that. Um, yeah, we also played Pixies, and then we taught the dad when the teenagers went to move on. We taught Planet Unknown and had a great time playing that. It's my favorite polyomino game, and it's always a good time.
Nice.
So
I played that one digitally, and I have a copy of it, but I haven't yet actually played it on the table.
ooh,
So I
we should
gotta.
play that on Board Game Arena.
Yeah, that'd be a
It's a
good
good
one.
implementation.
You would kick my butt in that one too, I'm sure.
You
So.
would be surprised. You're good at games, Joel. What else have you been playing?
Well, speaking of Board Game Arena, I've also got some other buddies I play with online. Dylan's one of them, and my buddy John. We kind of play the most together, and sometimes my friend Sean joins us as well. And we've been playing a couple lately. Concordia, and we'll talk a little bit later about why we wanted to try that one out. And
It's a great
Heat,
game.
yeah, I've been getting back into Heat as well, and I really love Heat. I think it's such a fun implementation of like a deck building process and managing that heat in your car engine. It's if you don't know Heat, it's a racing game where you are deck building and you're as you kind of push your car a little bit, you add heat, which kind of clogs up your hand and makes it harder to do the things that you want to do later. But it's also a really great implementation on Board Game Arena, and you can set it up and play with solo with like six or I think six is the max uh, computerized drivers, right? They call them legends in this game. Or you can play it with friends and have a mix of legends, or you can play it just with friends. And it's just one that I really enjoy. I enjoy it on the table, and the implementation online is really very clean. And so it makes the game really sing, I think, in some nice ways. But
It
that's
is a
definitely,
good implementation.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of the game
Oh,
personally. So, and it's funny that you say that because Ken and some other friends invited me into a full game of it, and
yeah.
it took like 2.5 to 3 weeks to finish. And by the end of it, I was like, I just want this to be done.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, if you have a bad experience like that, have you played it, like,
I
in a
have.
not bad
I've
experience?
played it twice, and the first
Okay.
time I was just like, I'm just not feeling it. I don't love racing games anyway. They're not my favorite style,
Yeah.
so it has to really like grab me. And I didn't fully understand the game. I didn't understand the spin out mechanic when you go around corners, and I just like I had a bad time.
Yeah.
I did play it again a few months later with some friends that brought it to a game night, and I did see that it's not a bad game. It's just not one that I care to play.
Yeah. I get
Um,
that.
and
I
so
would
I did have a better time the second time I played it. So thanks Brandon and Bethany for making me play it a second time because I didn't want to, but they put it on the table. I said, sure, I'll give it another go. And I did. I understood it more. I did enjoy it more the second time. I actually won, which was surprising. But it's not a game that I'm gonna request.
yeah. I think it's worth checking out, like playing maybe a solo game or something on BGA or a couple of solo games, and kind of once you find the rhythms, then I think it becomes really fun of trying to figure out like, okay, how do I manage this best and get around those corners and things like that. The legends on BGA are really challenging, so I lost a
Interesting.
bunch of games in a row before I started to get a little bit more competitive with it. But you also want to make sure that I think you should use the drafting at the beginning where you get some special cards in your hand. You get to add
Yeah.
3 special cards. That I think makes a difference over the base game also. But also it's okay if you don't like it. Not
Yeah.
everybody has to like
It was a
everything.
super smooth implementation though. I really
Yeah,
thought they did a good job with it. So
it is. It's really good. Offline, not on BGA, I've been playing just a couple. One I'll talk about later on, but a couple that I've enjoyed lately. Dark Heists is like a very small independent game from a publisher called ashyfeet.com or Ashy Feet Games. And they reached out to me for a review, and I really wasn't sure. The art is hit or miss for me. Like some of it looks really good and some of it looks kind of not so great. It's kind of this sepia toned, the whole thing is a little bit sepia toned and not super exciting looking.
yeah.
But I really like deck builders, and it's a really kind of fun, simple deck builder where you're pulling different types of criminals into your hand so that you can perform these heists, and then you track these heists as you go. With are you able to generate the resources required in order to fulfill the heists and stuff? And
Mm,
I ended up just really enjoying it. I mean, it's nothing I think earth-shatteringly new, but I think it's the kind of game that, if it finds the right audience, they'll just really appreciate it because it's not complicated, but there is some good strategy thinking. what kinds of cards you want to add to your little deck of cards, because they can create synergies and things like that. So
Nice.
that was one I really enjoyed. And then I also just last weekend played the Network's Primetime, which is Allplay's new version of the Networks. And again, this was a review copy I got for it, but I've played the Networks a ton. I really like the basic version of the Networks, and this
Hmm.
one's just a little bit more streamlined and a little bit faster. They pulled some of the things from expansions in, and there's an expansion for the Allplay version that pulls in a couple other elements. And made it a little bit of a tighter experience and faster moving experience.
Hmm.
But if you don't know it, do you know the game? Do you know the Networks at
Oh
all?
yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. And the theme for anybody who doesn't know it is like, imagine it's the 80s or 90s, and you are a network executive who's trying to, determine your lineup, what's going to be your competitive TV lineup. And so you're bringing in TV shows and attaching stars to them and attaching ads to them to help make some money, because shows cost money and actors cost money and things.
Hmm.
And the whole thing is just very, very tongue in cheek. All of the shows are like parodies of real TV shows. So instead of The Wire, they have The Cable. Instead of Game of Thrones, they have Throne of Games, right? Like they're all just like goofy parallels and
And
things
that's
like
what makes the game so much fun. Like
it's so fun.
the cards are just funny. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. I think it is. I'm glad that this game is still going to be available for people. I may prefer, I think, the slightly fuller original Networks version, but because this
Okay.
one's faster, I'll probably end up playing this one a little bit more, I would think.
Now,
Um,
did the original designer Gil Hova, did he help redevelop the new version, or did they
so
just kind of get his permission to do some tweaking to it?
Well, I actually know a little bit about this because
Oh,
I think I've
interesting.
told you before, but I met Gil Hova at Gen
Oh,
Con.
you
He
did. I've
he
heard
yeah,
this
he
story.
taught me one of his games. He was walking by and we were learning High Rise, and he was like, "Oh, let me teach that to you." And then as he kept talking and started saying like, "Well, what I thought was," I realized, wait, he wrote the rule book because he designed the game. So we actually have talked a few times since then. He's a super nice guy, and I think he basically has not had a ton to do with this re-implementation.
Okay,
He talked about looking at the rule book and said, they did some things that I really like that they did. They did some things that I think I like my version better. And I think that's probably what any designer would feel. So I don't think
sure.
he was super directly involved, but the base of the Networks is still there. So it's pretty, it's very much a close cousin, if not a sibling, to the original Networks. It's not like it's departed in any huge sense or anything like that.
That's
So
cool. But it
yeah.
sounds like they updated some of the cards too. Like there's
Yeah,
some more relevant references and things. So that's really cool.
right.
But yeah,
To the
that game
extent
was
that you can in a streaming world, right? It's
sure,
still
sure,
about
sure, sure.
TV lineups, but yeah,
That game was great. We tried it, me and my buddy Kyle from New Orleans and another buddy Ronnie from New Orleans. We tried it at the first Board Game Geek spring convention we went to. And the funniest story there is we were learning the game, and Ronnie, who's notorious for this later at night, did what Ronnie does, and he fell asleep during the rules teach. Which none of us had played it before, so we're like reading the book out loud. Well, Ronnie fell asleep. Well, Ronnie wakes up. We start playing the game. Ronnie wins the game, and Kyle and I have never stopped laughing about that since because it was just is the most Ron thing, as we say, that could happen. That he slept through the teach, didn't know how to play, woke up, and still managed to win the game somehow. And it was just a great memory and moment of that
yeah,
convention between the three of us. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
Well, should we talk briefly just about anything else we've been watching or reading or anything like that? I know we're already getting deep into the episode, but like, what's been on your radar outside of games?
Yeah, I'll do some quick hits. So, as I mentioned last time, huge Scream fan. Saw Scream 7 twice, opening weekend in theaters. Caitlin and I
Nice.
went to the preview night with some friends, and then I took our two older kids on Sunday afternoon to see it. And is it the best Scream movie? No. Was it better than the worst? Yes. Was it a lot of fun? Yes. There were some brutal kill scenes. Um, and it was a lot of fun. The killer reveal was a little weak, which if you're a Scream fan, you know, like that's the big thing, right? What's the motive? Who's the killer? Who did it? And it was definitely not the best reveal, not the best motive, but still an overall solid Scream movie. kind of going back to the roots with Nev taking the lead again as Sydney, with her and her daughter, um, who she named Tatum. If you're a fan of the original, she named her after her best friend Tatum, who died in the first one. So it was a
Nice.
solid movie, and I really enjoyed it.
I was just gonna ask, what is the worst one to you? Which is your least favorite of the series?
My least favorite is 3.
Okay,
And
yeah.
that among Scream, like super duper nerdy Scream fans, that's a hot take because a lot of people that's their favorite
Really?
because of the killer and because of some of the things that if you haven't seen it, it's been out for over 20 years. I could spoil it, but I don't like to do that.
Yeah,
But there are some people that highly regard 3, and I think it's great. It's still a fun movie, but it's my least favorite of them all because there's just a lot of really cheesy moments.
yeah,
It was made in a time where they had to tone down the gore and the kills, and I felt like because of that, the movie just lost a little bit of its like horror identity. And so, still a great movie in the
yeah.
series. I'm not going to skip it when I rewatch the series, but it's my least favorite. I think I would rank 7 above that for sure.
Okay. I'm surprised to hear that's a hot take. I thought that was sort of commonly seen as the weakest entry because of how kind of self-referential it gets, maybe
Sure.
beyond
I think it
what's
depends on where you're
enjoyable.
reading, but in some of the Scream fan groups on Facebook, there's a lot of people that the killer from that one is their favorite Ghostface, and it's their favorite sequel, and they will die defending it. So, but
Fair enough. Fair
yeah.
enough.
So watch that. We finished Only Murders, and I know I mentioned last time that I wasn't super into season 4, and then something happened and it got better. I will say it ramped up and it ended fantastically, and then season 5 was great.
Nice.
It was quite a ride, and one of the things I'm amazed at with that show is how they get so many amazing actors and actresses to just even do a guest, like they're in it for like 5 minutes, right? How did you get this person to come be in the show for 5 minutes, or they're in it for the whole season, right? And it's just such a fun, quirky show. I'll mention two other things real quick. Weapons, which was a movie that came
Mm,
out last year. I finally watched this weekend, and holy cow,
yeah.
that movie was wild.
Yeah.
I actually, as I do when I watch movies that I know Matt Cousineau, our buddy that does Dice Camera Action podcast, we were messaging about it Sunday because I had to message and be like, dude, this movie's freaking crazy. And it was it was something. I loved how they progressed the story. I really like it when movies kind of give you a we're going to show you from different perspectives, but some movies they tell the whole story from each perspective. This movie told like pieces of the story and
Yeah.
none of it made sense until the end, and it was wild, and it was a very slow burn type of feel until like the last 5 minutes, and it got crazy fast, and it was like, whew, it was intense, but I really liked it. I think I enjoy movies like that where they don't explain everything, right?
Yeah.
So you still don't know how the things in the movie were happening. Like it never explains the the methodology at which these crazy things happen. I don't want to say the wrong word and spoil anything, but my wife, on the other hand, does not like that. She wants answers, and she compared it to the Skeleton Key. If you saw that movie,
I have not seen
it's
that.
been out for years, but they explain how everything happens in that movie in a good way throughout the story as it progresses. And
Yeah.
at the very end, it's like obvious. You're like, oh, that's what happened. And she's like, I just don't feel closure when I don't get that with these kinds of movies. And so we found out that she's not as much a fan of that, like, super. I don't even know how to describe it, but it feels kind of like a Hereditary or a Midsummer type movie where it's a very slow burn, like psychologically terrifying type movie. She
Right.
doesn't enjoy those as much as I do, so which is a bummer. But she'll still watch them and have fun with them. Um, I'm assuming
Nice.
by your reaction, you've seen the movie.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I was gonna say I was on a best of the year, episode of Dice Camera Action with Matt, and I think it was definitely in his top 5. It may have been his number 1. I'm trying to remember exactly
Yeah, I
where it
can't
was.
remember.
I know he loved that movie. I thought it was pretty great, for sure as well. It is a trip. It reminded me in some ways watching that as going to see The Substance, where it's just as I'm
Oh,
watching, I'm like,
yeah,
"What am I watching right now? This is
absolutely.
wild." But in a really satisfying, compelling way for sure. So
and a
I like.
fantastic cast.
Yeah,
They did
definitely.
great. I was happy to see Julie Garner, I think was the lead's name. She was in Ozark,
Yeah,
and I
Julia Garner.
really enjoyed her in Ozark. And I haven't ever seen her in anything else to my knowledge, and so I was really happy to see her in something else that I felt like allowed her to dive even more into her skills as an actress. And then Amy Madigan was phenomenal in
Oh
her
yeah,
role, and
she's
so
great.
it was great. But speaking of shows with Jason Bateman in them, I referenced um, Ozark. There's a
Yeah.
new show on HBO Max called DTF St. Louis. Have
Okay.
you heard of this show?
I have not.
Okay, I hadn't either. And when I was turning something on when I was laying in bed sick the other day, a trailer automatically played for it. And the general premise of the show is it's billed as a dark comedy starring Jason Bateman as a weatherman in St. Louis, a local
Okay.
weatherman. David Harbour plays an American Sign Language interpreter who ends up getting paired with Jason Bateman's character to sign his weathercasts.
Okay.
And David Harbour's character is married to Linda Cardellini. If you know her, she's been in a
This is a
ton of
great
stuff over
cast
the
so
years.
far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. And the basic premise of the story is these people are all kind of unhappy in their marriages and like a weird love triangle kind of forms. That's like the synopsis. And it's billed as a dark comedy. And the trailer even seemed like it was going to be funny, but we're like over halfway into the first episode, and I told Kate, I was like, "This is supposed to be funny. It's just super depressing feeling." But it's another one of those where the way they tackle the story is really interesting. Now it's weekly episode releases, so there's only 2 episodes out so far, and we we watched the first two, and I won't say much about the second one because I don't want to give anything away. But the first episode is like this high level overview of the whole story, where
Okay.
how they meet, how their friendship kind of develops, and then David Harbour's character ends up dead, which you know
Okay.
that from the trailer. Like that's
Right.
the synopsis is somebody dies and they don't know how or who or what, and so but then the second episode filled in some cracks and told some of what you saw in the first episode from another perspective.
Okay.
And so there's a lot more to the story than what it seems like. And so it's super interesting. All three of the leads are amazing. And then Peter Sarsgaard had a guest spot on the second episode. And
Nice.
so I mean it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
The whole cast. And there's some other people I don't know their names, but you'll recognize them from other things. It is an adult show. It is not for kids. There's not like a lot of graphic sexual content, but there is some sexual content that will catch you off guard that you're not prepared for. Um, but if you like kind of like slow burn stuff, kind of murder mystery, weirdly paced story reveals, and you like the cast, I'm enjoying it, and I can't wait for Sunday night for the next episode to come out because I want to discover more of the story and see what's going on. So that's one that
Nice.
I hadn't even heard of and just randomly found this week while I was sick in bed. And we watched the first 2 episodes and we're definitely itching for more. So,
That sounds good. I may have to check that one out.
yeah. What anything standing out to you lately?
Yeah, I haven't watched as much lately as I would, again, in part because of this, like, trip I've taken, though I guess I did watch a few things, while Amelia was gone, but there's just a couple that I'll maybe emphasize here. I finally caught up on Black Phone 2, which I really liked. I liked Black Phone, and I might have liked Black Phone 2 more than that. I don't know, I might need to go back and watch the original again. They kind of have you seen this, Chris, or either
No,
of
that's
these?
what I was going to say is those are movies I've wanted to watch Black Phone for years. And I just never have, but now you talking about it, it's going to make me want to watch it more. So
Yeah, I really like. Well, I'm going to try and talk about this without doing too many spoilers. Then
I
they
appreciate
they
that.
they make some choices in the second film in terms of. Um, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that like dreams and things are involved in it, and they do some really cool things with like the type of film stock they're using in the waking world versus the dream world that I think are really effective in not only kind of setting the tone of these different worlds a little bit differently, but also uh, helping cue the audience into like when are we in what kind of space here, right? Because there's this
Okay.
kind of fluctuation between what's real and what's not real in some interesting ways. So I ended up really liking it. I think it was a pretty solid horror movie for sure. The first one I enjoyed, but I feel like I said, the second one might stick with me a little bit more. I was really intrigued by some of what they were doing with it. Not
Okay.
perfect, like it's not gonna to me hit the level of something like Weapons or something like that, but definitely I think a pretty good watch. So
And
I
that's
really enjoyed that.
Ethan Hawke is in
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Ethan Hawke.
And
He's the
I like him
main
and stuff. So
Yeah, he's the main, like, recognizable, I think, actor. There's character actors that you may be like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen that guy before," but he's the name that's in it, right? And
sure.
he's pretty good. He seems to be having a fun time with the role. Then TV-wise, my wife finally convinced me to start watching Nobody Wants This, which is a
Okay.
Netflix series. I don't know if you've heard of it.
It sounds
It's
familiar, but I don't really know anything about it.
it's got Kristen Bell and Adam Brody, and it's kind of a rom-com TV series. Kristen Bell is this, woman with a podcast all about kind of like life and giving frank advice about sex and relationships and all those sorts of things that she runs with her sister, maybe a little bit cynical about relationships and things like that. And Adam Brody plays a guy that she meets and falls for and discovers that he is a rabbi. And so there's
Hmm.
these tensions that are going on in the series between his family doesn't necessarily, I mean, they like her, but they don't necessarily want to see them together and things. Her sister doesn't necessarily buy that she's kind of fallen for this guy because she's been so kind of flighty with relationships and things in the past. They're not sure what kind of future they have together because, if he wants to be the head rabbi of his synagogue and things, he should probably be married to someone Jewish and all those sorts of things. So it's really just delightful. They're a lot of fun to watch. I think they're all the characters are likable in really great ways and unlikable in ways that are funny, and even those are kind of charming, right? So I don't know, I've really enjoyed it. She watched the first season a long time ago and kept saying like, I think we should watch this, and I was always like, I don't know if I'm in the mood for that. Doesn't sound good. And finally we sat down and started watching it, and I was like, all right, I'm really enjoying this. And so now we're partway through season 2. I think we have maybe 4 episodes or 5 episodes left, but that's one that I'm enjoying quite a bit.
So
And
you're enjoying it more than you expected to, basically.
yeah, way more than I
Yeah.
expected
Well,
to.
that's
Like,
good.
I had we had to stop watching so I could come down here and record the podcast, right?
Oh,
So
my apologies, Amelia.
yeah, that's right. Then the other one I've just been watching on my own, actually for the better part of, I don't know, 6 months at this point. Star Trek, the original series. I've never
Oh,
really consistently watched it. So 6 months ago, or about something like that, maybe 4 months. I don't know exactly when I started. I started just putting it on in the background while I was painting miniatures and things. And I'm now almost done with the original series. There's only 3 seasons of the original series, so I have not been like watching it fast paced or anything like that. But I really enjoy it. I don't know. It's super nerdy for sure, but I get how dated it feels. I get why most
hmm,
people probably wouldn't want to sink their time into watching this. I don't know if I would have if I'd just been like sitting watching the TV. I'm usually working on something else while I'm watching, but I also get why it was so influential, right? And phenomenal. And yes, it's very 60s and dated, and they always seem to go back to these planets or discover these planets where people have developed parallel to Earth, and somehow they're just like America in the 60s or Germany in the 40s or whatever the
right.
case is, right? But like at the same time, they're also sort of exploring in sometimes a ham-fisted way what it is to be human and what is
Hmm.
it that makes us like connect with other people and all those sorts of things. So
And
I'm really
finding ways to womanize any species you come in contact with.
exactly. I mean,
Like, why would you?
you think it's a joke, but every other episode, Kirk makes out with another woman from
Yeah,
another alien species who just happens to be a beautiful blonde or a beautiful brunette or a beautiful redhead or whatever
right.
the case is,
Absolutely.
right?
No,
Uh,
Caitlin. So Caitlin watched through that last year, and
yeah,
so I heard all about it as she was watching it. And the interesting thing about this show is they tackled a lot of subject matter that mass media didn't tackle at that time period
right.
in a very open-minded way,
Yeah,
right? Gender roles, racial tensions, all sorts of things, political issues. So they were very like open-minded and edgy and ahead of its time in some regards, but then still very classic-y, tropey, womanizing lead man,
Yeah.
and very, "Ooh, we've got to go save the world," type of mentality, like male victor, male savior idea. So it's
Yeah.
kind of an interesting balance of super edgy, pushing boundaries, but still fitting the mold of what you had to do to stay popular at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's an interesting kind of tonal choices they've made in even the dialogue and things that they're clearly going for kind of a like epic Shakespearean philosophical feel with everything, right? Like really trying to ask deeper questions. But as you said, it's also framed very much in its time. Just the way probably 30 years from now, the shows we're watching now will feel like, oh, they thought they were kind of really pushing the envelope, but man, how safe they were in the 2020s compared to 2056, right? Or
Right.
whatever the case is.
I
So
mean, every generation has that.
exactly. Exactly. So yeah, but I'm enjoying it. It's good. I've probably be watching it still for a week or two, right? I'm not watching them, as I said, super fast paced, but it's been a lot of fun. Chris, I think I just saw you take a drink of something there. What are you drinking today?
So tonight, my tea of choice is a black orange dream, is what it's called, and
Nice.
it's pretty tasty. I expected a little bit more of a citrusy punch, and it's not quite as intense as I expected, which is good. But I might want a little bit more because it's what I expected. I don't know. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep drinking it happily because it's pretty fantastic. And shout out to 25th Century Games. They make some really sweet mugs. You should go check those out. Not a sponsor, but love Chad and what he does over there. So
Very nice. Well, speaking of things that are sometimes not what we expect or surprise us with our expectations, maybe that's a good segue to talk about some games that we want to talk about in a little bit more depth today in the chopping block. So we start every review segment with our disclosure policy. While Oak and Onion doesn't accept review copies of games, that doesn't change our review approach. Preview sponsorships, other relationships will be clearly identified, as will how we received every game we review, whether we're sent a copy from the publisher or purchased it ourselves. We aim for honesty and integrity in our reviews and hope you can trust us to tell you what we really think. So let's see what's on the chopping block today. What do you got, Chris?
I've got a couple of newly released expansions from Stonemaier Games that I want to talk about really quickly for each of them. Just do some quick level highlights, what's new, and what I think about them. The first one I'm going to bring is Wingspan Americas, and it is published Stonemaier Games, like I said, designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. A team of artists including Martha Claire, Natalia Rojas, Ana Maria Martinez Jaramillo, and it plays 1 to 5 players in about 75 to 90 minutes, and it's adds a slight bit of complexity to the base game. So it's a little bit heavier than the base game if you've played it, but not too much that fans of the game would be overwhelmed. So what the expansion brings is over 100 new birds from Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean areas. It introduces a few new gold cards, some gold tiles, some new green eggs, and a solo mode update. The biggest thing it brings is a new mechanic that features hummingbirds, and I'll get there in just a moment. So, if you're not familiar with Wingspan, which I'm assuming you are, Joel, you've played Wingspan a few
I've
times.
I've played Wingspan many times. Definitely one of my wife's favorite games, and I really like Wingspan. It's probably not in my top 20 games, but I'm never going to turn a game of it down. Are you like Wingspan in general? Are you a fan of the game, or is it just an okay one for you? Like, where are you on the base set before we get into the expansion?
We really like it. We've had it since shortly after it came out. My mom paid way too much money for a copy of it for my wife's birthday unknowingly. She just knew Caitlin wanted it and didn't realize she was paying too much money for it because it was in that time where they were waiting on a new print run.
Oh, right,
And there were
yeah.
still some copies that people were selling too expensively. But I've joked with her about it since then. But yeah, we've had it ever since. We own all the gameplay content for it. I don't have all the promo packs and fan made alternate art, different things like that. But
We don't have the alternate art. I do have the promo packs though, and everything else for it because I am under strict instructions from my wife that if any Span games come out, I'm to buy all content for them. So,
oh, there you go.
yeah,
Permission accepted.
it is the only game that she's like, I don't care. Well, that and maybe Obsession. Those are the only games that she's like, I don't care. Buy it.
There you
It's
go.
new. Buy it.
Gotcha. Well, if you haven't played Wingspan, I'll give a super quick high level overview. You're attracting birds into three different habitats, which are your player board. You've got the top row is forest, you've got grassland, and then you've got water habitats. You play cards to your board by paying food and potentially eggs. And as you play the cards, it does a few things. Number one, in game points. Number two, it increases the benefits of the actions tied to those rows. And it also will give you some sort of engine building benefit. Now, some of the birds have no powers because they're really high point value. Some of them have an immediate ability when you play them. Most of them are going to have some sort of ongoing ability that will trigger either on your turn when you take the action of that row, between your turn on another player's turn, at the end of a round, or at the end of a game. And the way the actions work is each row has its own action, and when you take the action, you place your cube on the first spot that's empty next to the bird card, and you're going to gain food, you're going to gain eggs, or you're going to gain more cards. And then you're going to work your cube backwards, right to left across the row, triggering any brown ongoing abilities that you wish to trigger as you work your way back. Now, what the hummingbird module does is it comes with a little overlay that goes on the left side of your board that covers the habitat names and the actions. And it has a spot for a hummingbird card in each habitat. And what the overlay does is it adds a brown power that is permanent for each of your habitat rows. When you get your brown cube all the way back to that spot, you get a hummingbird action. If there is not a hummingbird card in that habitat, you're going to choose one from a face up board that has 5 face up cards in the center of the table. And you're going to choose one from the face up board and you're going to put it in the spot on that habitat. Each of the cards is going to have an immediate bonus that's going to trigger. Give you a card, an egg, a nectar. If you're playing with nectar, let you move up a track, a few different things that are offered there. Now, if there is a card there when you take the hummingbird action, you will take the hummingbird from your board and it will fly back to the garden. And you will
Mm.
choose one of the 5 stacks to put it on top of. And each player will also have a hummingbird track sideboard next to their habitats that has 5 different tracks based on the 5 different hummingbird category types. And when you send a bird back to the garden, you're going to move up one of the tracks on your board. It's either going to be the track of the card that you flew away or the one that you cover up. Now,
Okay.
the tracks are going to give you points at the end of the game based on how far you've advanced. But they also, each track has 2 spots throughout it that give you an immediate additional hummingbird action. And
So,
so, go
quick
ahead.
question. Every time you move a cube to the end, a bird either comes or leaves. You
Yes.
don't ever leave a bird there and say like I
No.
want to keep using this power.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because they don't have an ongoing. The hummingbirds don't have ongoing powers.
Oh,
The ongoing power is the hummingbird action,
got it. I see. So,
and
got
and
it.
it wouldn't do anything for you ongoing anyway because you get the immediate benefit when it comes to your garden, or when you send it back to the garden, you get to move up a track.
Okay. That
So
makes
that's
sense.
kind of the, and it is kind of a neat mechanic. They're coming back and forth all game long.
Yeah, it feels a little bit thematic, at least as you describe it, right? Like the
Yeah.
hummingbirds kind of moving around and things like that. I like that.
So the hummingbirds don't score you any points themselves at the end of the game, but each of the 5 tracks you will score based on where the markers are for those tracks. Now, if you don't move on a track, you're going to lose 3 points at the end of the game.
Mhm.
The second spot on the track is 0 points. So you want to make sure you at least get all your markers up one step so that you've got a net 0. But there are some end of round goal tiles that will trigger off of hummingbird stuff based on your tracks or hummingbirds you have. And there are some game end goal cards. The one I chose for the game, because it's like, well, we're playing with it, I might as well use it, gave me points based on how far I was up one of the specific hummingbird tracks. And just like some of the other gold cards, it's like if you had this many, you get less points. If you have more, you get more points. So
Right.
I managed to get all the way up to the top of that track, which halfway through the game did not seem like it was going to be possible.
Mm,
But I made it a focus of the gameplay to be able to get there. There wasn't much that I didn't like about the expansion. Um, the only gripe, and some people I've seen talk about it on Facebook in the Wingspan group, it does increase the playtime a little bit.
sure.
In a 3-player game, it wasn't much, especially considering it was, I think our middle kid played it with us, and it was their second time to play Wingspan, so they're still figuring the game out. And so we were all figuring out the expansion at the same time. So our gameplay was a little bit longer, but again, the circumstance being what it wasn't a big issue. And I don't think it would super increase at 3 players. Now, there is a rule variant if you're playing with 4 or 5 players in the rule book where if you don't want it to be too long, you just take out a cube at the beginning of the game and you
Okay.
have one less action each round. I personally wouldn't like that because then I don't feel like I'm doing as much. But
Yeah.
in the rule book, it does say because the hummingbirds allow you to do more throughout the game, you should be at a comparable place at the end of the game with one less action. Now, I'm
Okay.
always going to want to do more, so
Yeah.
I don't think I would enjoy that, but it is an option if the playtime becomes an issue. And the only other negative I would say is the little overlay piece for the expansion is it's a thin card stock. It looks great, it feels great, but it kind of slides around some. And so that,
Right.
there were times where like it would bump eggs or bump resources and I would have to like restack or reset things. And it's not a huge deal. It could cause some minor frustration or irritation.
Yeah.
If you know Wingspan, you know that they have neoprene mat upgrades. I have seen that there's a possibility that they will make neoprene mats with the overlay on it. And if that's the case, I will probably consider finally biting the bullet and upgrading
Yeah,
because,
that seems like an easy fix. Even if you stick with the cardboard normal boards, right? Like a little neoprene piece on that would still stop that sliding around. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And you could put some type of grippy thing on the back, but the problem is they're double sided. So if you're just
Okay.
playing like if you're playing without the nectar variant from the Oceania expansion, you can have just the plain. But if you're using the nectar, it's got a side with the spots for nectar and the points for them
Sure.
at the end of the
Yeah.
game. So you know that's that being what it is. But I think they're talking about ways to potentially upgrade that and fix it.
Yeah. Okay.
So what does work? I mean, the art, the iconography, the component quality, as always with Wingspan and Stonemaier in general, is top notch. The iconography was really easy to pick up and follow. After playing it one time, I wouldn't have an issue quickly. I mean, I could teach this expansion to somebody that knows the game in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to explain.
I feel like you taught it to me as just like hearing you talk, right? Like
Yeah.
it seems pretty straightforward.
And
So,
even then, I'm like, I could clean this up a little bit and be a little faster. So thanks for
yeah.
being my guinea pig podcast. Um, but I did enjoy the extra layer of strategy introduced. We've played Wingspan a ton, and I like the game still. I still think there's new stuff and new synergies to discover because of how many bird cards and having all the expansions. Like there's no end to the combination of what we're going to find in a game. But I did like the little bit that it added to the game. It wasn't a lot, but it added for some really cool decision making moments, right? And so
Yeah.
as you're getting the hummingbird, you've got to decide, do I care more about the immediate benefit right now, or do I need to plan to be able to move up specific tracks when it goes back? Right?
Yeah.
What are my next 3 actions going to be? How can I maximize what I'm getting benefit wise from the hummingbirds and which tracks I'm moving up as I plan my next few turns?
Right.
And so the one you take, those are 2 things you got to think about. Do I need the immediate egg or do I need to move up a track? Those are 2 options, right? And as
Yeah.
you're sending them back to the garden, do I want to move up the track on the bird? Do I need to cover one up and move up its track? Do I need to leave a bird uncovered to be able to get it on my next turn to help maximize where I'm going, right? So it added some
Yeah.
really cool decision making space that, not that the game needed it, but I thought complemented and worked really well inside the game.
Yeah, for not it sounds like for not adding a lot of overhead, it does add some nice choices and complexity to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And not a ton of complexity, but just a little bit, that if you want a
Just a
little bit
step
more
up.
out of Wingspan, and someone that I liked the idea of the complexity of Wormspan, but I just didn't care for the theme of the game
Mm.
and the extra layers it added. I thought it worked well. It just wasn't my jam.
All right, you heard it here
I think
first,
this scratches.
podcast. Chris anti-dragon. Chris hates dragons.
I didn't
Won't
say I
uh
hated dragons.
won't play anything with dragons. Man, you learn something new every day here, I guess. But
We have everything Wingspan. I don't need Wingspan.
well, what I like, honestly, speaking of Wormstone, what I like is it's adding something new to the game, but not repeating what's happening in Wormspan, which is adding different things as well. I think
Right.
that's really clever that there's enough design space here that they can bring in multiple elements to it, you know?
Yeah. And so, all that to say, prize play pass. For me, I don't think it's a prize only because I don't think it needs to exist.
Okay.
But it's definitely a play because as long as I'm playing the game with somebody that knows how to play Wingspan, or if they haven't, but I trust that they pick up on games easily, I'm going to include it because I just think it adds a neat layer to it.
Nice. We've got that sitting in our on our shelf right now, but we haven't yet had a chance to break it out. But that makes me more excited too.
Yeah,
I
I
think
would
it
love
sounds really
to
neat.
hear you guys' thoughts, being span fans, as you kind of put it there. I think it would be neat to hear what you guys think. But
Span fan.
span
Has
fans,
that been copyrighted anywhere? Can we make that our first merch?
let's
Span
book it.
fan.
There you go. Nobody steal our idea there, please. I did not say with both of these expansions that these are personal purchases for me, to fit the disclaimer that Joel so eloquently worded there.
And
These are
mine too. We have not played either of the expansions you're going to talk about, but those were both purchases for us also.
Gotcha. So to segue into it, are you guys viticulture fans as well?
We are, though we have not played, I'd say, as much Viticulture as we've played Wingspan. I really like it, and it was an early purchase for us. And I think that it remains to me a really strong worker placement choice and one that has plenty to offer, even, however many years it's been since it was first published. I think it still stands as a really great worker placement game. It's just, as we talked about before, we're not drinkers, and so the theme doesn't quite grab us quite as much.
That's fair.
Though I have no problem playing the theme and really enjoy the game and things like that. It's just not one that is immediately, oh, we'll get this out and play it here. So yeah,
Gotcha. No, that's fair. Um, I do think this game is great for a themed game night.
absolutely.
Make a charcuterie board, get some wine or non-alcoholic wine if you don't, those do exist as well.
Sparkling cider,
Or do some
perhaps.
sparkling cider, sparkling grape juice. You can find ways to fit the theme without actually drinking alcohol. But
Sure.
it's one that lends to a thematic night so well. But Viticulture Bordeaux expansion was designed by Jamie Stegmaier, and the artist, interestingly, is not the artist for the base game, but Sylvain Leroy,
Oh, that is
or
interesting.
Leroy. I'm not sure if there's an accent there or not. And just like the base game, plays 1 to 6 players, 90 to 120 minutes. And I would say this is pretty comparable weight wise to the base game. What
Cool.
it adds is not much. If you're not familiar with viticulture in the game, you have inherited a meager vineyard in the Italian countryside and you're working to transform it into a successful winery. And it is a worker placement game where you have an available pool of workers. You start the game with three, but there's, depending on the version of the game you're playing, if you're playing the base game, there's 2 seasons. If you're playing with the Tuscany expansion, there's 4 seasons to take actions in.
Do
Now,
you have a preference between those two, Chris? Because I will tell you that I almost always play Tuscany if
absolutely,
it's a
yeah,
choice.
100%.
Yeah, I don't.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think I've really gone back to the base game too much, other than playing it on BGA, because I don't think the Tuscany expansion is on BGA. But
Yeah. Now, I don't always use all the modules from Tuscany, but I will at
right,
least use the game board.
yeah,
So the interesting thing about the game is your pool of workers are for the year. And so you have to manage them across all of the seasons you're playing through. So if you're using all of your workers in spring, then you're done for the year and you're not going to do any of the actions in later seasons. So that's one of the things that I think makes the game feel a little more unique for a worker placement game,
Yeah.
is that managing your workers, like they're your most vital resource to manage in the game.
Yeah.
Um, Throughout the game, you'll be gaining and planting vine cards into your fields. You'll be harvesting your fields to gain grapes into your crush pad, and then you will be transforming those grapes into wine in your cellars and using those wines to fulfill wine order cards that give you points and what are referred to as residual payments, which at the end of every year, you get money based on where you're at on the residual payment chart. So the Bordeaux expansion keeps all of that exactly the same. Like nothing core gameplay changes, nothing about the flow of the game changes, but it adds a few significant but simple changes. And I'm just going to kind of run through those really quickly. The first thing is the wake up chart, and that's something that's on the board. And as you pass from season to season, depending on the row of the wake up chart, you gain some sort of benefit. Now, the wake up chart also determines turn order for that year. So if you're higher up the chart in previous versions of the game, you're not going to get very many benefits, but you get first turn each season.
Which is a
The
huge benefit, right? To
huge
have
benefit.
your choice every time. So I
Yeah.
love the balance of that, of making that choice to, like, okay, I'll let go of some immediate benefits, but I will get that long term first choice every season.
Which you're going to like this then. Every spot on the wake up chart on the Bordeaux board has a benefit.
Oh,
There is no
interesting.
space that is void of a benefit. There are
Huh.
also some new benefits introduced that are you or all players, depending on the row, get to age wine or grapes.
Okay.
So there are some things that help the game progress a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
So the wake up chart has some added benefits to it. The second thing, there was already a trade action on the board. This was also reworked. So now when you do a trade action, there's another like inset on the corner of the board that is a chart where you're going to choose what you want to trade across the top and pair it with what you want to gain across the side and find the intersecting square of the chart. And you're going to place a token on that. Now, the interesting thing is, previously, you could make the same trade every turn. All players can make the same trade. But now, when you do that, that spot is blocked and can't be
Okay.
taken unless it's cleared, which is there is a way to take a couple of tokens off of that chart. So it kind of makes that a little bit more interesting and changes it up just a little bit.
Right.
Now, one of the biggest changes that a lot of people, myself included here, are excited about is previously all of your cards were blind draw, and there's a lot of luck involved in that. Now on the board, your vine cards and your wine order cards have a face up market of two cards that you can choose from, or you can still draw from the top of the deck. And that just gives you a little bit more agency over your path in the game. And it works really well.
Chris, can I ask you, is this set up as you do all of these things in Bordeaux, or is this set up as modules? Because it seems like that's one that would be easy to just, do even if you were just playing Tuscany or the base game.
Yeah, I mean, you could just make the face up market yourself. All of these things so far are all printed on the board.
Okay, got it.
So they come pre printed there. Good question, though. The next thing, and this is also really cool because one of their goals with the expansion was to start up gameplay and get it going a little quicker. Because if you've played
Yeah.
Viticulture, you know sometimes it can take a little while to get going.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to what you choose from your red and blue cards, formerly known as the Mamas and Papas, you gain 3 additional lira. You gain a value 2 grape of your choice and a value 1 wine of your choice. And you start at 1 on the residual payment chart.
Okay.
So you just get a little bit more of a leg up, but
Yeah.
it's even across all players, right? Everybody gets the same stuff. One other thing starting wise that changes. Previously, you had 3 fields available from the beginning of the game, a value 5, a value 6, and a value 7. Now you only start with the value 6. Your 5 and 7 you have to purchase at 5 or 7 lira respectively to be able to use them, which was really interesting and also kind of made me angry because always my starting strategy is the first round of the game, I'm selling my value 7 field to get a little bit of money to start the game.
I
And I
think a lot of
usually,
people did
yeah,
that. Yeah.
and I usually don't ever buy it back. So
Right.
the fact that now you have to buy them, uh, I did like it, but it frustrated me at first. So
It seems like a good balance though with already having to get you're already getting that leg up in some other areas that you get a little boost that way and then a little restriction on the other side. So I can see it why that would be a
yeah,
good kind
no,
of
I
pair
definitely
that
think it
together.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one other minor thing it changes is typically when the game ends, when somebody reaches a specific point threshold, depending on the edition you're playing, um, that still happens, but now there are end game point conversions that can affect a close point game. So after the final year, when someone has reached 25 points, that's the final year. At the end of that year, all of your grapes and wine will convert to lira. So your wine equal to its value in your cellar, 1 through 9. The grape is based on its age in your crush pads, 1, 2, or 3. You transfer those or convert those into lira, and then every 10 lira you have is worth 1 point. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but a lot of times viticulture games can be very close, and that could make a difference in a close game.
Right.
So, now the biggest thing that it changes, and this is something that you can choose to not play with. I think everything else I would always play with, but there's a new expert action in the summer. And each player begins the game with 4 expert cubes. And each action on the board has an expert bonus. When you take
Hmm.
the expert action, you pay to train an expert and choose an unclaimed expert space to place one of your cubes on. For the rest of the game, if you take that action that has your expert cube on, you get an additional bonus based on
Hmm.
whatever it is. One that I really enjoyed was both playing summer and winter visitors. Those are cards that you can play during summer or winter that give you some sort of bonus. There's a ton of them, and there's expansions that add different ones. But typically, you play one card. Um, Sometimes you could play 2 cards if you get a bonus, but they usually have some either or choice. If you have the expert action or the expert upgrade for that action, when you play one card, you get all the benefits from the card. You don't have to choose. And that made for some really cool, powerful turns.
Yeah.
Um, some of the expert actions seemed really powerful, but they're ones that you're only going to take a few times. Like when you train another worker, because you can have up to 6 workers. I mentioned you start with 3. One of the actions is train more workers. That that one had a really powerful bonus, but you're only going to take it up to 3 times throughout the game.
Right.
So it at a first glance, it was like, wow, that seems way too powerful. Well, but you're not going to take it as much as some of the others.
Yeah. Do you
So
remember what it was? What that power was?
not off the top of my head. I
Okay.
was trying to, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it
Cut
was
that.
a. I think it was a
Just cut
discount.
that.
Yeah, I could look it up real quick. But
That's no big
uh,
deal.
so again, several significant but simple changes. What didn't work? Nothing. I think all the changes were really cool. They fit the game well. It didn't feel like I was playing a different game. Um, the only thing I'll say, the point conversion, I think it's a neat concept. I don't know that it's negligible most
Yeah.
games. If you're playing, like I think I already mentioned, if it's a close game, it could matter. Most of the time, I don't think it's going to, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It just kind of is what it is. What worked? The face up card market is great. The blind card draws, I never hated it. I know a lot of people did, but I just think it's neat that now you have choice and you can kind of control your path forward and you
Yeah.
can make sure you're getting the right cards a little bit easier.
I'm the same. I didn't hate that. Like, it's just some games play like that, right? You just see what you get as you play. But I agree. I like that idea of maybe a little bit more strategic choice in how you're going to develop. Because you
Right.
could make some choices based on what you see there, hoping that it's still there when you get to an option to take one, and then it's gone, right? And so there's
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
some trade-offs there. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I think the expert action is really cool. I don't think you can skip that, especially if someone seems overwhelmed by the rules already, but it doesn't add that much. Now, it adds some strategic decisions, right? Because you've got to choose which one you want, and then you've got to figure out how to use it effectively, because
Yeah.
otherwise you've wasted a turn and you're wasting money. But I thought it was really neat, and there's some potential for some really cool, powerful turns. And the starting boons are great because, again, sometimes the beginning of the game can feel very sluggish, and it feels like, man, we've played 3 years already, and I haven't done anything. So that
Yeah.
just kind of helps you get going.
Yeah.
So how would I rate this? I'm actually going to give this one a prize.
Great.
I don't think I will ever not play with this game board. So it's interesting you asked me about Tuscany. I didn't want to give it away. I would always play with Tuscany until now, um, because because it's just a board with some changes on it. It's also compatible with any expansion content that already exists.
Right.
So you can add whatever you want to module wise from Tuscany, any additional visitor cards from other expansions. I'm just going to use this board because the wake up chart was more interesting, the trade action was more interesting, the starting boons were great, the face up card markets, right? All those things that I already talked about. I'm just going to use this board from now on. So I
That's
think
great.
I was considering just saying play, but I think number one, the value cost of the expansion, it was pretty low,
Yeah.
and because of that and how impactful I feel like it is in the game, I think it takes a great game and makes it a little bit better. And so it's one that I'm going to give a prize.
I love that. I really like also I feel like this is a game that, I remember last episode you were commenting on my love of Tapestry being like, "Oh, that's not a game I hear people talk about." I feel like Viticulture is a game though it's still around that hasn't been in the spotlight as much. And so I
Right.
love that they made this expansion that like still is just firing new life into this game, right? That's been around for a while at this point and continuing to find new ways to kind of play with uh, that design space, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's super cool. So I'm glad to hear it's so great.
Yeah, I
That's
think, I
so
mean, I think it's really cool that Jamie decided to go back to, I think that was his first game,
yeah,
right? That's what put Stonemaier on the map. And I think it's really cool that after over a decade, he's decided to go back and revisit it. I didn't know this was coming. And when I heard about it, I was like, I don't know that I need an expansion for Viticulture, but they were releasing it with the Wingspan expansion. I was like, man, I might as well get a both. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm definitely happy that I got it. And I'm itching to play it again, especially after talking about it now. So
So that's really cool. I'm really excited, like you said, to hear about how well that game is playing out. If I remember right, I think Viticulture was actually the first game they ran on Kickstarter. You may have said that already, but
yeah.
uh, and that's like where they got their big success, right? Was their Kickstarter coverage. They don't Stonemaier doesn't use that really anymore, but that's like the foundation of their company. And I think Jamie even wrote a book about how to be successful on Kickstarter and things. So that feels like a good reason for us today to talk about maybe some crowdfunding campaigns that have our attention. Let's do a highlight reel. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. So the highlight reel is going to be a catch-all segment for what's going on in the board game scene that has our attention right now. Sometimes it can be funny stories, news, hot takes, anticipated releases. Most often, like today, we're going to use it to highlight some crowdfunding campaigns that we're eyeing for one reason or another. So let's dive in. Joel, what is your first game that you're eyeing on the crowdfunding scene?
I think I'm going to take mine in the order in which they're going to end on Kickstarter. And I'm actually going to, or crowdfunding, whichever platform they're on. I'm going to actually start with one that I think is going to be over by the time this episode airs. And that's Inferno 1348 and the reprint of Inferno. I'm an English teacher, as you know. This is a game that is based on Dante's Inferno. And I'll be honest, I don't fully understand how the game plays. I have looked at a few different explanations and things. It seems like there's an element of some positioning in the space of hell. You're trying to guide souls into the correct punishments or something along those lines. I don't know. This could be totally wrong, and somebody listening right now is going to be saying I'm an idiot. What really drives me though is the theme. I really just love this idea of Dante's Inferno being the source of a board game. I think in the expansion, this 1348 expansion, there's an element of the plague that's been involved with it as well. And more souls who are headed to hell apparently because of that. uh, I think this might be one that I back. It looks like it has all the markings of a game that is perhaps over bloated, and I think that I may find that to be the case, but I also just like this idea of Inferno becoming a board game, and so I think I might back this one. I'll need to, as I said, look into a little bit more exactly how it plays here, not just be impressed by the ways in which we're going to depict sloth and lust and envy and all those sorts of things throughout the game. Have you played this, Chris? Do you know anything about this?
I don't know anything about it.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to look it up though, because it. I don't know that it's something that I'm gonna be interested in backing, but I definitely want to see what it is because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think from what I understand, the souls come in all different colors, and the colors are the correspond to the different sins that they've committed, and so you have to figure out how to move them down into the right spaces
Okay.
of hell, and then as you do so, you're moving up on tracks to say like you've led the right people to the right places, and they those tracks I think score at different points along the game as well. I've taken a look at the game at conventions and things like that. It's super a super impressive production, as I said, probably over bloated I would say, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. It just means you might need to spend the time to kind of figure out what works here and what doesn't. So I'm excited to spend a little more time taking a look at this one.
You mean there's overbloated games on crowdfunding?
I don't wanna blow your mind, but sometimes
Sometimes.
the games put a little too much in and don't actually slim down enough,
And that sounds
and
like a great conversation we need to have next
we
episode.
we should have that
Yeah,
conversation.
that'd
That
be great.
sounds good. Yeah. How about you? What's the first one you're excited about?
The first one I'm going to talk about, I don't know that I'm necessarily excited about it personally, but I know there's a lot of people that are, and it's one that we can't not highlight. And that is the new Labyrinth Chronicles
Yeah.
update, reprint. There's a lot going on with it, and I'm not 100% sure exactly what the ins and outs are. But if you're a Labyrinth fan, it's a classic game that so many people grew up playing. Then this is for you, right? Because they've updated some of it. I think there's some new content. There's some upgraded components, and it looks great. I've looked at the campaign. I've looked at some of the pictures and components, and it looks really cool what they've done with this old mass market game and making it hobbyified, if that's a
Yeah.
word I can use. Um, and it doesn't look like it's too much, right? I think there's a lot of content that's going to be included, and I don't think the box is real small, but
Yeah.
it doesn't look overwhelming, and it doesn't look like it's too overfull of bloat, to reuse that word.
Yeah, I also have not played the original Labyrinth really ever before, and it looks like what they've done is made these what were tiles before into 3D, like
Yeah,
it's an actual maze, which is kind of fun, right?
and
It
it looks
seems like
super
that'd
cool.
be yeah, it seems like it'd
And if
be
there's a game that needs something like that, I feel like thematically that totally makes sense.
absolutely. I think you move those pieces around, right? Like you slide
Yeah,
new
I think
segments
so.
in and new segments come off, and so yeah, it seems
It's
like
like an
that'd be a lot of
evolving
fun.
maze.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that one is on GameFound, I believe, and it does end March 18th, which is the day this episode's releasing. I don't know. Does Awaken Realms normally do late pledges for their stuff?
They do, but this is part of their new system of doing things for games that are this is basically a pre-order, and so I don't
Okay,
know if that will continue with those the way it does with like normally Awaken Realms has a super long pledge manager time frame where people
right.
can still jump on and pledge. But I don't know if that's going to be the case for this one or not. So the people who have downloaded us day one, those are going to be the
It's
winners here.
yeah,
You
it's
you
not
get the
too
chance.
late for you to get your Labyrinth Chronicles Super Fancy Edition. So,
That's right.
but I would love to try it at some point because I feel like if it's that beloved and that classic, long lasting, and it's getting this treatment, it's worth trying. So maybe one day.
Yeah.
But what's the next up for you?
So the next one I wanted to talk about is one that I have played. I was sent a review copy of PDX by Waterworks Games, and I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the game quite a bit. Um, I should have mentioned a second ago, Inferno, like your Labyrinth, was on GameFound. PDX is on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And this is a game that is about it's sort of about, designing running airlines and kind of helping build out the Portland airport, which seems like the
So
worst
random.
theme for a game, but the game is really actually a whole lot of fun. I think there's some really interesting things going on in the game. It's kind of a worker placement game where you just have a single worker and you move that worker around, and part of what you're trying to do also is position these like luggage pieces so that you can take bonus actions at times, because you don't get to take the luggage action when you place it. You get to take it on your next turn. And so it becomes this like really clever timing puzzle where you kind of have to figure out, what do you want to do 2 or 3 turns from now, and what can you do now to get to that point? Same thing with the flights that you build out. They all have bonuses along the way, so as you move your planes down those flights, you get to trigger those bonuses. So by the time you get deeper into the game, you're placing a worker, picking up a suitcase to do that action, you're moving your planes down and getting to do bonus actions there, and so you're starting to chain out these big opportunities to really expand your network and stuff even more. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's one I'm really excited to play more of. I just noticed, I was looking at the Kickstarter here as we're talking, that I was in fact quoted on the Kickstarter page.
Ooh, so
Here's my
fancy.
quote, 5 words: a go-to efficiency puzzle, which I think that's what it is. It's a good, it's a really, really neat game. I really am excited about this one. I really like Waterworks. They have sent me a few games, and I like working with some publishers who are a little bit more under the radar. And I think that they are doing cool stuff that I don't think yet has the attention that it deserves. They did one called Alpenglow. They did one that's coming out called Red Dog Junction, which I played the original version of it, which was a lot more generically themed. But they've all been fun to me. They've all had a really good sense of design spaces that are familiar, but that feel like they're doing something a little bit fresh and a little bit different in that space. So that's what I'm pretty excited about.
That's cool. I've seen pictures and posts of PDX and it looks really interesting. Like the artwork isn't super crazy, but it's very intriguing to me, just the look
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah, it's
So,
got kind of like a clean retro
yeah,
design style.
kind
Yeah,
of
it's really
muted
nice.
colors
Yep.
and but it looks really intriguing. That's one that I would like to try out at some
Yeah.
point.
How about you? What's next for you?
So next up for me is from Flat Out Games. You know them from Cascadia, Calico, the Point Salad, Point Galaxy, Point City series. They put out some great quality, low rules, good strategy games. They have a pair of games on Kickstarter right now called Forage and Honeypot. And this campaign runs through March 20th. So if you're listening to this the first few days it's released, you've still got time to go back them. The thing I love about their Kickstarters is they're not expensive for what you get. Both
Yeah.
of these games I think are $34, $35, and they always come with some Kickstarter extras, like a little promo pack or a mini expansion or something. But these two games look really interesting. They're both very different. But if you've played Point Salad and Deep Dive that they have out, it's that same box size. So it's their
Okay.
smaller box size games. Forage is like a forest mushroom exploration themed roll and write type game. But what makes me so intrigued by this is if you listen to last episode, I love roll and write games.
Indeed.
Typically you have a sheet and that sheet is always going to be the same. Now some games may have a little bit of a difference in how the sheet's laid out, but it's always going to be the same, right? Pretty much. So forage is you're drawing and drafting cards to fill out your area that you're going to mark off. And
Hmm.
so you start with so many. Throughout the game you're potentially gaining more, but with so many cards available, your sheet, quote unquote, is going to be different every game. And you sometimes have a choice of gaining more of a certain type of card. So the sheet is constantly changing during the game, and every game it's going to be a little bit of a different experience and you can explore different strategies. And so, number one, my wife loves a good forest mushroom themed game, and we love roll and rights. And so this one sounded so unique. And at this point, it's like, how do you take a roll and write game that's been done and done and done and still give it a unique flair? So that's one that I'm super excited. Honeypot, I'm not super sure if this is going to be a hit for us or not, but at the price, I could not just go ahead and get both of them. But Honeycut kind of takes the I cut, you choose mechanic where I look at cards and I offer you two different stacks and you're going to choose one of them. But it does it in a different way where you're giving more of you're given one stack. So it's I stack, you flip and choose throughout the
Mm,
stack. And at some point, you can stop and take something, or you can kind of push your luck, hoping to get what you need.
yeah,
But there are cards that could be detrimental and have negative effects towards you. So, and
that's
the theme is
interesting.
really cute. Like, I think it's kind of like a bear mafia type thing where you're trying to like get the honey pot without getting caught. And I don't know, it's been a couple weeks since I watched the videos about these in preparation for episode one. We didn't get to these during episode one, so I don't remember 100% about the theme, but I do remember thinking it took I cut you choose and made it kind of a family silly push your luck type element to it. And even watching the video, one of my kids was like, "Oh, that looks really fun." So I'm sure we'll get a few plays out of it at least. So
Nice. Side note, Chris, Bear Mafia is what my friends and I were called in high school, just called the Bear Mafia. So,
I have
yeah,
so many
good stuff.
questions.
All right, next for me is the one that has been at the top of the hotness list for a while we've been
So hot.
prepping for this, and that's the Old King's Crown reprint. Old King's Crown, so hot right now. Um, as a Zoolander reference, if you didn't get that, I don't know.
I
Uh,
totally missed that. Thanks.
oh, okay, yeah. Well, jokes are always funnier when you explain them. That's what I've learned. So,
Absolutely.
uh, the Old King's Crown is everywhere. It seems like right now, as we're recording this, everybody wants to talk about it, and I think a big part of the reason is it is an incredibly beautiful game. There's no denying that this is good looking. This is all the product is, from my understanding, of one guy who designed the game and created all the art and created this world and all these different things, which is pretty an impressive feat, if you ask me. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's pretty neat. The game is like a strategy game where you are trying to take control of different lands on the board, and so you're going to bid a card basically, and then there's all kinds of shenanigans that happen where people are each card has a strength value on it and it has effects that might trigger on it, and then you're trying to pull in special powers to move cards around and do surprising things and maybe take someone by surprise in terms of how the card play is actually going to play out. And I can definitely see the appeal of this game. And I think after looking at it a whole bunch, I've decided it is probably not a game for me. It's
Mm,
definitely a game that I want to play, but I don't think I'm going to pledge for this one because I think what strikes me is when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it is a number comparison game, right? You're going to just compare who has the higher number, and there's manipulation that happens before you get to that, and a lot of faking neat people out and trying to psychologically surprise them and all those sorts of things, and there are players for whom that is the dream. And what I've heard frequently from people is the more you play this game, the more exciting that sort of meta play is. But I don't know if I would like that initial experience enough to want to keep playing it. I was talking to one of my friends who is going to pledge for this, and he was like, he was for a long time, he was a big Magic the Gathering player. And he's like, it sounds like this game is all the things you hate about Magic the Gathering, Joel. And I was like, yeah, that's probably right, right? Like, Magic the Gathering, when you think you're about to trigger this big combo, and then someone does something that's like, oh, actually, that doesn't trigger at all. And instead, you have to, lose 4 cards from your deck or whatever because of this thing that I just played. Like, that's not the part of Magic I enjoy at all. I find that really
right.
frustrating at times. And so I think this game is sort of centered around that, like, undercutting and surprising people by messing up their plans and trying to outsmart them and outthink them, which, like I said, I get why people want that and love that. And I just think for me, it's not a game that's probably going to click with me enough to want to keep playing with it. But I would definitely want to play it again, and I hope when my friend backs it, he lets me give it a shot with him, and maybe I'll regret it and be like, oh, I should have gotten it when I had the chance. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about it, but what I've heard sounds like I would enjoy trying it, but it's probably not something that's going to be a hit for us. But I do definitely want to try it. If it's this loved and talked about, it's definitely worth a play to
Yeah.
test it out. So the next thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna do three quick hits before I pass it back to you, because I don't know a ton about these games, but I just want to mention them. Outlandish Games has a new edition and expansion coming for Defenders of the Wild.
Mm.
It is on Kickstarter. It ends March 20th. I don't know a ton about Defenders of the Wild, but I know I keep seeing it all over social media and the interwebs. And it's really pretty and intriguing looking to me. I know it's a cooperative game and it's really hard. And I know there were some complaints about the first edition. So they've trimmed it up. They've reduced the world book by, I think they said 30%.
Hmm.
They've tweaked some gameplay things and they've made it just a little bit more streamlined and added and changed some things that are supposed to make the play of it better and more enjoyable. I think it's still going to be really hard to win, from what I understand.
Yeah.
But the whole theme is you're like woodland creatures trying to keep the factory out of the forest, and the factories coming in and like building and trying to industrialize your area. And so you're trying to keep them out. So cool theme. I really like the
Yeah,
theme. I
definitely.
would definitely like to try it, but what they've mentioned they've done with the second edition definitely sounds like they've made some improvements, and there's an expansion with it as well.
Yeah. I've played the original and I enjoyed it. It's a good, I think, cooperative game. The first edition was a good cooperative game, but it does sound like they've sort of tightened it up even more, which is great. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's an interesting one.
And the next one I'll say is Facade Games. Are you familiar with Facade Games? Have you
I'm not.
ever? Okay,
No.
so they have a series of games called the Great Facades and or Book Box series, depending on where you look. And it's a series of games that are themed around historical settings, and the gameplay comes in a box that looks like a book. And so when you put them on the shelf, it looks like a row of book spines. And so the design of the boxes are really cool. But the games that they've put out include Bristol 1350, Deadwood 1876, Hollywood 1947,
Oh, okay,
Salem
yes.
Salem 1692, Tortuga 1667, and the newest one that's on Kickstarter right now is Roma XLI, which is Roman numeral for 41, right?
It is. Good
Okay, I'm gonna
job.
I'm gonna
Yes.
say that one more time.
No, you should keep it.
I
Keep
was
it.
saying it. I was saying it so confidently, and I started saying it. And I was like, "Wait, am I not making an idiot out of myself?" Uh, okay, all right. Well, Jill doesn't want me to edit that, so we're gonna keep it in. Have a laugh at my expense, folks. I did get it right, just for the record. So this series of games takes the hidden role social deduction gameplay and makes it more gamey, for lack of a better word. They add some layers and mechanics to it that make it more strategic, and it makes it feel like you're playing not just a party game. It makes it feel
Yeah.
like an actual game. So if you like Werewolf or Mafia or Secret Hitler, games like that, this is going to take that and add just a little bit of an extra layer on top of it. I
Hmm.
haven't played all of them. I've tried Bristol, Tortuga, and Hollywood. And out of those, I think Hollywood was my favorite, just because being a film student, working in the film industry for a little while,
Yeah.
I just thought that one was really cool. And the setting of that one is like post World War II. And when the communists were thought to be invading Hollywood. And
Yeah.
so you're either a communist or you're not. And so that's like the hidden role. You're trying to get
I love that theme.
yeah, you're trying to get your propaganda movies made. And so whatever side you're on. So it's just kind of a neat theme and setting. Bristol's also great. I don't know a lot about Roma and what it's going to do, but I know that these are a really cool series, and I know a ton of people love these games. And so I just wanted to mention that it's on Kickstarter through March 26th. So if you like games like that, you like social deduction, you want one with a little bit more meat to it, not a ton, check Facade Games out and check out Roma XL1 or Roma 41 on Kickstarter. And then the last one that I'm going to mention right now, before I kick it back to you, also ends March 26th. And it is from Frown Clowns Games, which is a mouthful. And it is titled Hairband Rock, Roll, and Rule. And so thematically, you're a hairband trying to catch your break. It looks really cool, though. It's at its core, it's a dice placement game. So dice as workers, rolling dice, you're placing them on the board to take actions to try to boost your notoriety, play bigger shows, and catch your big break as an 80s hairband. The components are really cool. Your player board looks like a guitar amp, and it's got actual knobs that turn. And
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
so, in the same vein as Rock Hard that came out a couple years ago, but
Yeah.
very different mechanically. And so that's one that if you like that theme, you like a weird, quirky theme with your Euro strategy dice placement game, check out Hairband on Kickstarter.
Nice.
What I know you've got kind of a list you're about to dive into, so that's why I want
Yeah.
to go for a few before I pass it back. But what you got last here?
Well, mostly I want to do the same thing you did and just kind of hit them real quick. And then there's two that I want to spend maybe a little bit more time talking about, but not a ton of time. So I just wanted to briefly mention the AR Next lineup, which was announced a few days before we recorded this podcast, maybe a week before we recorded this podcast. And there's a lot of excitement always for what Awaken Realms is doing. I know there's somewhat a controversial company as well for how they incorporate artificially intelligent art into their work, and certainly that's the case for one of these that we'll be talking
Mm-hmm.
about. But they have a whole series that they've mentioned that are going to be coming this year. The first one is a game called Tamashi: The Final Amendment, which is a sequel to a game that they put out a few years ago, also called Tamashi, which had a different subtitle that I can't currently remember what it was. It's the original was in their AR Light, I think was what it was called lineup. It was seen as a bit of a lighter game, and I assume this is going to be in that same vein, though I don't think it has the AR Light branding that the original did. It's some sort of cyberpunk future world that's controlled by AI, and I think the idea of it is that you are kind of putting together patterns on the board that allow you to take control of different types of figures, and so you're not just necessarily controlling one figure the entire time or one character. You're like swapping in different characters and different
Mm-hmm.
abilities that they have. That could be totally wrong, but that's kind of my understanding of how the game works. So that's the first one they talked about. The second one I'm a little bit more interested in. It's called Scoundrels, and Scoundrels is a cooperative, stealth-driven dungeon crawler. They're calling it, where
Mm-hmm.
you're playing some thieves who are kind of exploring and trying to steal some things along the way. And it looks fun. The world looks kind of interesting. It's based in the world that they're calling Evershade. And I don't know anything about that. I did not play the original game set in that world, and I've not really looked into it too much. But I always like a dungeon crawler. The character designs in this look really fun and creative, and so I'm interested to see kind of a little bit more about how the game will actually play. They haven't released much in terms of specifics yet, other than, as I said, there's a stealth element to it, which I think is always an interesting thing to kind of explore in board games.
Mm-hmm.
A third one that they mentioned was more 20 Strong, which 20 Strong is, the solo gameplay from Chip Theory games, where they're all kind of themed around different games. And I think there's a series now they're going to be themed on Awaken Realm games. I've played a couple of the 20 Strong games. I thought they were fine, but they weren't really exactly what I was looking for in a
Mm-hmm.
solo game. So I just haven't explored them too much. But I think every little box functions slightly differently and plays out with a different set of rules. It's not like a skin of the same game. They're all using the same types of dice components, but how you use them and what you're doing in the game is very different. So there might be something interesting there, but again, it's just not something that has really grabbed my fancy too terribly much. The
Gotcha.
last two I did want to spend just a little bit more time talking about. So maybe I'll talk about one and then you can talk about one of your last ones here, and then I can talk about the last one, which I think we both will have some feelings about. Um, they announced Nemesis Legacy and a Nemesis RPG. Now, the Nemesis RPG is not probably going to be my cup of tea. I have bought some RPGs, but I have never actually really played an RPG, so I don't know what to do with that exactly. Maybe it's interesting.
Same.
Alien is one of my favorite movies. It is a top 5 movie for me for sure.
Great film that I watched
Absolutely.
for the first time last year.
Are you kidding me?
No, did you not listen to that? I was on Matt's podcast Dice Camera Action, and that was the movie that we reviewed. And he picked it partly because I had never seen it. So
This is like this is like when I learned last episode that Star Wars Episode 1 was your first Star Wars. Like,
am I
didn't
am
you
I never
say
gonna live that down?
no, didn't you say you were a film student and that you, like, have worked in film? How are you not seeing these classic, amazing movies?
Again, my parents were not big space sci-fi people, so I was not exposed to them at a young age. Now, I have been an adult for over 20 years now, so there is some responsibility still on me,
Yes, you are an irresponsible
um,
adult is what we're learning.
but I will agree that Alien is an amazing movie. It's an
Yes.
okay series after that, but
I have a soft spot for the series. Alien is my favorite by far,
yeah,
but I think I like what the series does as a
yeah.
whole in terms of exploring different
I
themes.
only watched 3 of them and
Yeah.
enjoyed them, but the first one was by far the best.
Well, in some ways, they're diminishing returns after that. It
Yeah,
seems
that's fair.
they're trying to, squeeze water from a stone in different ways that aren't effectively
Yeah.
working. Sometimes I use metaphors that make me sound like an 80-year-old man, and squeezing water from a stone, that's one of them. Okay,
But
so
I will say Nemesis Legacy was only a matter of time before they decided that needed to happen.
I'm so glad they
With
did. I'm
with the
really fascinated.
popularity of that series, I'm surprised it took them this long.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the first, Nemesis, and I was like, I don't necessarily need 3 big box games that are
Yeah.
generally the same, so I have not played, the other 2, and, I believe a lot of people feel like the 3rd one in the series, Retaliation, is maybe the best version. Nemesis Legacy is going to be designed by Rob Daviau, who has done all the Pandemic Legacy games and one of the designers of Cthulhu Death May Die, which is one of my very favorite games, one of the designers of Ticket to Ride Legacy, which is just behind the Pandemic games in terms of great legacy games. So I am really excited to see what he does with this. I think a kind of dark alien inspired legacy game feels like that's not really a space that exists right now in the market, right? Like most legacy
Sure.
games are sort of a little bit more upbeat and fun. And I think this will be fun, don't get me wrong here, but they're a little more like shiny and silly and funny
Lighthearted.
and yeah, lighthearted is a good, even Pandemic, right? The Pandemic games have a bit of humor to them and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'm super thrilled about this one, and this is, unless they just price it insane, this is definitely one I think I'll be backing this
Which
year.
that's definitely possible.
It is possible, or it is possible that they'll be like, "Here, get the base box for a reasonable price," but what
Yeah.
the version you really want is actually,
A million
$500.
dollars, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, what's one of the ones you have left here to talk about?
Okay, so a smaller publisher, Tangerine Games. If you've seen Saros, or I think their bigger hit first game was Nestlings. Was on
Mm,
Kickstarter a couple years ago.
yeah.
They've got a pair of games on Kickstarter ending March 27th called Calora and Kindred. Calora is the main game, and it's kind of you're exploring this like magical forest looking board and picking up tokens that you're then putting on your player board. And it's kind of puzzly, and you're deciding if you want the token, and if you take it, how you can fit it in your board to fill out your board and maximize it efficiently and get the most out of it. I don't know a ton of ins and outs of it, but it looks pretty and it seems really interesting. It's probably a little bit more family weight than a lot of people want, but if you want a really good quality family weight game with great art and solid mechanics that's going to kind of up your game nights as a family, I would definitely check this one out. I think the price point's pretty solid on it as well. The second game is a set in that same world, and it's called Kindred, and it's kind of a polyomino puzzle game, and I love polyomino games. More than that, it's designed by David Abelson, who
Hmm,
designed Gartenbau from 25th Century Games, which we're a huge fans of in this household. And Dave's also a really cool guy. We got to meet him and hang out with him at Tantrum Con last year, and
nice.
we actually got to play Gartenbau with him, which was super fun. And so that's what caught my eye about this one was he's got a game on there. You can get them together, you can get them separate, whatever you want. But those are two games from a fairly lesser known publisher that are definitely worth checking out. I think
That's great.
Tangerine Games is putting out some good quality games, and they deserve a little bit more love and a little bit more praise than they're getting. So make sure you check out Calora and Kindred on Kickstarter.
Nice.
All right, what's your final big controversial game that I'm not going to talk about because we don't have time?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, it's funny that we are just getting to this at 1 hour and too many minutes in, because this is I really kind of one of the games that inspired this episode, is we both had some thoughts on this, and that is Concordia Special Edition, coming from Awaken Realms. Now, they have put out some special editions, one that has actually come out so far, right, which is, or two of them now have come
Two of
out,
them, yeah.
which is Castles of Burgundy, Puerto Rico, and Agricola is currently being printed, and so Concordia will be the fourth that they've come out with. And I was really, maybe surprised is the wrong word, but intrigued to see how controversial this one was when it came out. I think a lot of those other games had pretty positive receptions on the whole, and maybe varying degrees in which people thought they were necessary or not. But
Right.
I've seen a really split response to Concordia Special Edition. A lot of people complaining that this is a game that does not need a big special edition. It is certainly a game that does not need any sort of miniatures in it, and is a game that maybe we don't need the Awaken Realms AI tinged art happening with it as well. And so I've just seen a lot of really split demands. As I said, I've been playing some Concordia online, in part because I wanted to remember, like, I've played Concordia before, but it's been a while. So
Right.
is this a game that I would want to, depending on what the final package looks like, invest in a special edition? And I don't know yet. I still need to play it a few more times to really get a feel for, will this, do I need a big, do I want a big version like this in my collection?
Hmm.
But I'm also interested to see, knowing the kind of split reaction that this has received, if that's going to modify at all the way they're presenting this when this actually comes to GameFound at some point this year. They haven't announced an exact date yet.
I mean,
What?
they're already modifying the way they're talking about it based
Yeah,
on some of the hate complaints, gripes that they've gotten so far. I also have enjoyed Concordia when I've played it in the past. It had been years since I'd played it. I actually recently played a game on BGA myself. The goal was at that point, before we knew this was coming, the goal then was to be able to vote on that category for the BGA awards for 2025.
mm.
But the game took too long, and I didn't get a vote in that category. Uh, Spoiler alert: I would have voted for Galactic Cruise anyway, and it still won. So no love lost there. But I have a lot of mixed feelings about this campaign that they've announced.
Yeah,
And we were going to talk about it more, and maybe we'll put a pin in the discussion and tack it onto something else later down the road. Um, my initial reaction was, okay, this game could use some better artwork and maybe some better components and a refresh, right?
yeah,
Because they've done some cover upgrades and expansions and kind of reworkings over the years, I think. But um, I'm not opposed to it getting a reworking of artwork and having a better presentation. Now, I'm not a fan of AI artwork for
hmm,
a lot of reasons that we don't have time to get into right now. And so my interest level in the campaign is going to depend on where they end up landing on what they're going to do artwork wise for it. I've made a decision for me and my family personally that we are not going to support campaigns that use AI artwork in their final product, um, just because of where we land on the ethics of the AI industry and what all it's doing right now.
yeah,
So, to put that quickly and shortly, that's just kind of where we're at as a family. So, how they end up tweaking that and what they end up landing on and how they stand will determine if we're interested in it or not.
yeah.
Um, I I'm intrigued and I'm going to follow along. I spent way too long this week reading some of the forums And holy cow, it's the Wild West on BGG forums when it comes to this game. There's people complaining about the artwork because there's just a little bit of cleavage being shown.
Right.
And there's people using some weird terminology in reference to this artwork. And I'm like, if that's where you're at in your adult life, then I have concerns for you. I just, people are over sexualizing it and they're making
Yeah.
it into this huge issue. And I'm like, guys, that's not what we should be focused on.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't agree with those. I do agree with the fact that the artwork isn't great. It's there's gripes about what she's holding in her basket because those aren't even focuses of the game. There's questions about why she looks so sad and depressed on the box cover. Like it's they took this artwork and they tried to make it better from previous versions of the game, but it's worse somehow. And so I definitely agree with those complaints, and I would love to see what they do. Now, the interesting thing is they said that this is the official cover art. If you look at the BGG, the image in BGG, the caption is official cover art.
Mm.
They have since backpedaled and said, well, this is a work in progress.
Ah.
And in one post, they used placeholder, and somebody's like, well, if it's a placeholder, why did you call it the official cover art? And he's like, well, the artwork is always in progress until we print the game. And they're like, but that's not what you said. So there's some interesting back and forth going, and one of the Awaken Realms employees has been talking and commenting and admitting, yeah, this is a work in progress. This isn't the final art,
And
even though they termed it that way.
And to be fair, if you look at their other games, like that is their process, right? Like that's been the case for many of their games is they've got an image that is close to but not exactly what the final image will look like, right? And so
Right.
I believe them when they that may be just the response to the outcry, but I also believe that that could very well be their process, is that this is where we are right now, that the box is going to look like this basically, right?
Right.
That, and there's still some like tweaking and revision and things to happen. So yeah, it's interesting. The cleavage debate is hilarious,
It's
right?
wild. There's a whole forum just about that.
Like the existence of cleavage does not in and of itself mean that it's a sexualized cover, right? Like
Right.
it's ridiculous.
And somebody made that comment and they were like, the artwork is not sexualized. Your comments and your attitude
Exactly.
towards it is what's sexualizing it. And then people
Yeah.
started arguing with them. It's crazy. Now, I will say my biggest gripe with the whole scenario, and it's the internet at large right now. If you don't like it, move on.
Yeah.
Right? Like why are these people spending so much time and energy arguing over these things that are so trivial? If you don't like this, like, and you haven't been a fan of their previous treatments, the special edition wise, you're not going to want this one. Just keep your old version if you're happy with it. Because there's so many people like, why do we need this? I love my version. Okay, shut up and move on. Like, you
Yeah.
don't need to waste your time and energy on it. I don't want to read it. Nobody else wants to read it. And like, you're just making a bigger deal out of the whole situation instead of being like, that's not for me. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
And so I think we would do better as a hobby and as a world as a whole if we could just, okay, that exists. I don't need to waste time on it.
I think there comes a point in your adult life when you realize that like you only have so much time on this earth,
Right.
and do I really want to spend it arguing about, the cleavage on a board game that's going to go to 4,000 people, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
at best 5,000. I don't know. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
maybe those numbers are a little bit low, but a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the population, right?
Right.
Like it's just absurd to me. And I get it to an extent. We're passionate about the things that we're passionate about,
Absolutely.
but there's so many times when I have, been on BGG or been on Reddit or been on something like that and typed a comment out and then realized if someone responds to this, I have no interest in engaging with that
Right.
response. Why am I typing this? Why do I feel like I need to shout this into the void to let someone know that I have an opinion about this thing? I'm
Right.
just going to have the opinion. And then
Yeah.
I delete it and go away and I'm happier with my life, right?
But
Like
the problem is the majority of people have not matured to that point to make that realization in themselves. And now The problem is I had a lot of fun reading through those comments. It was very entertaining, and Kyle and I were texting back and forth all day about it, and just he said, "I'm glad you're enjoying this as much as I did," and it made the day better. There was a lot of laughter, there was a lot of jokes, and then I shared it all with Caitlin that night, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, these people!" And
I'm gonna have to check these out. I have not read
oh,
these
it's great. I'll
forums.
send you, yeah, I'll send you the couple of forums that we looked at, but it's one of it's not wrong to have an opinion. And
Right.
my biggest gripe with a lot of it is share your opinion, have a conversation. And some people are doing it, but honestly, some people are just being assholes for no reason. And
Yeah.
that's just not that's where the line needs to be drawn.
Well, and
Right?
so
Like share your opinion, have a conversation, but don't be a jerk about it.
often it's not a conversation is the thing, right? It's
Right.
just like you say your opinion, I say my opinion. Now you're going to repeat your opinion and I'm going to repeat my opinion. And we're not actually engaging with each other. We're just voicing again what we actually think. And it's just
And I'm just trying to prove to you that you're wrong and you need to change your opinion, right? Like
exactly
that's the goal. The goal isn't discourse and
right.
understanding. The goal is I'm right, you're wrong, get on board.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I'm sure we will have more to talk about with this because we're
Absolutely.
not even at the actual crowdfunding campaign yet, right? Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be a while still. So
Well, and it also plays into a topic that we really want to get into, and hopefully next episode we'll talk about like just how much is too much,
yeah,
and with special editions like this, what is needed, what isn't, where do you draw the line on too much in the gaming hobby? And so it's well timed, and it's really got us thinking and discussing between the two of us, and we're trying to figure out how and when and what we want to share because it's such a deep and nuanced topic. So
yeah. And hopefully we'll have some actual discourse because I think we're not exactly in the same places on those opinions, right? And hopefully we can
yeah.
kind of engage and understand where the other person is. Like
Because
that's
spoiler alert, when we first started texting about this Concordia special edition, Joel and I very much disagreed about it. So, and I might have come off a little too harsh.
because I was like, cleavage, that's for me. No, just kidding. I didn't even notice that as a factor in the cover until
Because
that
it's
became an
so
issue
minimal
online.
and minute. Like,
Yeah.
it's I mean, there's people saying, what wife would let their husband have this on their shelf? And it's like, bro, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
It's wild.
it is wild.
Um, I'm going to mention one more quick thing.
Okay.
It's on Kickstarter till April 2nd. It's from Ducksomnium
Mm,
Games, if you are familiar with them.
I
And
am, yeah.
it is a re-theme of Botany called Botany Floral Dragons. I've played the original Botany one time and really enjoyed it. Thought it was a really neat game. The artwork and components and presentation were amazing. And they've got a new version coming out that changes the theme. Very similar gameplay, a few small tweaks and differences. But one of the things that Duxomium does is they put out some of the sweetest premium editions of games, wooden boxed, etched on the lid, metal pieces. And if you go look at the Kickstarter page, they've got some metal dragon
Mm,
pieces that are holy cow. I don't need the game. I don't need the dragon pieces, but holy cow, I want them just from looking at the picture. So if you've seen Botany around, but you're not crazy about the theme, but you like dragons, go check this game out. If you have Botany, go give it a look. Um, I don't know that you need both of them unless you just feel like you want to have both, but they put out some beautiful games, and it's definitely one worth checking out.
they really do put out beautiful games. I wish that I liked their games.
Oh
I
no,
was not a fan of Botany. Uh, it just did not hit for me, but
that's fair. I mean, we
they're
played it
great
once.
looking for
Yeah,
sure.
I enjoyed it. Caitlin enjoyed it more, and I don't think it's one that we need to own. She would happily own it.
Well, maybe this beautiful wooden metal dragon edition is the one to get
That
then.
is out of the budget. Because with the premium editions comes a premium price tag, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and that's the case for a lot of this hobby, right? Is that it's getting more and more beautifully aesthetically pleasing games, but the price is just going up
Up and
uh
up and up.
concurrently with that. So, Yeah, that sounds like a good topic for another day, though. Maybe we
Absolutely.
can spend some time with that. In fact, Chris, I'm going to propose that that's a good place to wrap things up for today.
Sure.
All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's the number one way we can grow the show and bring you more Oak and Onion action. If you want to learn more about what we're up to, you can follow Chris on Instagram as cpwilson_4.
And Joel is on Instagram and TikTok as The Diced Onion.
You can also follow our Facebook page. If you have ideas for show segments, suggestions for games we should play, or just want to say hi, you can email us at oakonionpodcast@gmail.com or follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Oak Onion Podcast, where Chris has been fantastic in posting regular clips from the show and finding some of our best, funniest, most entertaining bits and hopefully drawing more people in. I know we're going to continue this conversation in our next episode because I feel like we had to cut a lot out here of our thoughts on crowdfunding, the game we had lined up to play, and all sorts of things. So we'll have a part 2 for this episode in the near future. But until then, keep your onions fresh, your cutting boards clean, and your table welcoming to everyone. We'll catch you next time. We're off to back some games.
I'll just pick up right there and I'll cut it together. Sorry, I forgot to unmute my mic.
No worries.
I was trying to fix another glass of tea and forgot to unmute it.
I was on the screen with the script and I was like, did I just lose something here?
No. I came over and started talking and realized it was okay. My lung capacity right now is not great. And so there's a couple of times where it's like, I can't stop talking, but I need to catch my breath. And you would chime in and I was like, oh, thank you.
It's a sequel to their game from a few years ago called Tamashi. I can't find the title here. It's a okay, well, let me try that again.
Okay, I like that. I didn't read that all the way through there. That was cute.
Is Nemesis Retaliation the third one in the series?
So. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.